I hope this angle's okay. I can't get the stupid GoPro app to work, which is why I didn't use it the first 2 times. It's super finicky. I exposed these screens last night before I left. There's one more on the bottom that needs to be exposed still. A couple of things that I was talking about in other videos that I don't want to forget. One thing I knew after I finished the video, I was like, oh, I veered off topic. I was talking about printing stuff in large format and how I don't use a lot of emulsion, and somehow got on a little tangent about DieDye and using stuff. What I was trying to get at there is eventually I do want to print stuff large format, and I guess the tangent I went on was stretching work out, or doing the same amount of work but extracting more out of it. That in relation to the large screens being, what I'd like to do is, you know, so while I'm printing, I can do the videos and dyeing, do the videos. That's not too much extra work, and I think it's kind of a fun thing, not only maybe for some of you, but I mean, I kind of came up with the idea just as like an actual diary for me, so I can look back one day. It's always interesting. I've never really kept a journal, but the times I have, the brief periods I have, I go back and I look at it, and it's pretty cool to read, because it really takes you back better than your memory can in a lot of ways. Or I guess like a lot of memory just lies dormant unless there's something to trigger it or ignite it. But so stretch more work out of that. The other thing related to the big canvases is stuff like drop sheets that I use when I'm dyeing that end up looking really cool and kind of have that same experimental and organic nature that some of the printing and other parts of the process have. I want to take the drop sheets and turn them into wall works, maybe installation pieces or large canvases, or I don't know what. I'm gonna wash these out maybe 2 at a time. I should probably expose the last one in the meantime, but whatever, we got lots of time today. It's very early in the morning for me. Maybe not for some people, but for me. I exposed these screens for 12 minutes with bond paper. It says in there 10 minutes. A lot of people will do 10 minutes. That seems to be standard for bond paper. But the lights need time to warm up once in a while, and I don't think anyone really used them much yesterday. Just like these lights need time to warm up. You know how they'll be kind of dim when you first turn them on? The same thing applies for UV lights in the light table, which I didn't really realize until someone explained it to me the other day. When I'm doing this, I start pretty soft. I also like to do like one little one on the back, which I don't know if that makes any difference at all, but I guess it's just a ritual now. I like to think it works. I don't know how well this one's gonna wash out. I'm kind of worried about it, because the dipper on it, you probably can't see, but it's really, really fine. I'm not worried about either of these, really. I also, when I'm washing out, turn it once. I don't know why. I always feel like they get more at the bottom, because all of the water at the top, you're washing out the top, you're washing out the bottom, but then all of the water from the top is also dragging the bottom, so... That might be an issue. I think this part right here is in a thick part of emulsion. And it might not wash out that well. We shall see. I have lots of extra screens if anything. I always forget, you gotta look at it in the light, because this, sometimes you have a washout sign. I had one when I was back in school that is plexiglass in the back and then has lighting fixtures behind so you can see how much you've washed out, but unfortunately that's not the case here. It's not that big of a deal, you just hold it up to the light. But before you do that, I always forget to let the corner drip out. I just pull it right out and pour water all over myself like a dingus. That's pretty close. This one, I don't know. Oh no, that's not bad. How it prints is like a different story. We'll see. Sometimes finding some of these images, a lot of the time, not even just for this project, but for other projects, I look at really gross shit and shit that makes me feel weird. Oh, another thing, another video I was talking about being here at night and having this feeling like there was some sort of creature around the corner. It's probably because there's this giant gorilla looming in the shadows. So I understand where that feeling comes from now. That's great. Getting to the bottom of my problems, emotional problems. I think that should be good for these two. Should move it along anyways. This is kind of boring. It's not really my problem though. That's yours. Or whoever. Maybe it is my problem if I'm watching this down the line. Sometimes I like to think I'll amass a bunch of these and go back when I'm a potentially Alzheimer's-ridden old man and watch them. In which case it will be my problem. that is boring. What was the other thing I wanted to... Probably wasn't that important. Oh, I guess there was... someone said to me about isolation and isolating yourself when you're having issues, hiding yourself from the world. Oh, don't you do that? Yeah, I do. A lot of the time. Just because I do something doesn't mean I don't know it's the wrong decision or it's bad. And it's even harder in the moment to fight off the wrong... It's like smoking cigarettes or something like that. I know smoking cigarettes is fucking dumb as hell. There's eyeballs being injected with needles on the package. It's half the package is that. I know it's fucking dumb, but I still do it because it feels good and I'm a weak little animal. But I think there's plenty of things that you can give advice on. That's like, I don't know, you know, psychologists or therapists, I'm sure they have gone through, if not are going through, a lot of the same issues that their patients have. But I don't think that makes them any less qualified to give advice on it or advise against something. If anything, it maybe gives them insight. But yeah, it's like kind of monkey. What is it? Monkey see, monkey do, or do what I say, not what I do. Do what I say, not what I do. I'm still a monkey. Either way. Either way. These all turned out pretty cool. I'm really happy with that new set of actions. I think later today I might spend a bit of time making more. I have to go through and make all the different LPIs. Maybe not all the different, but I want to do between 10 and 25 LPI for the halftone screen actions at 4 different angles a pop, except for the lines, which I'll do at, I think, I don't know how many angles, I think 8 rather than 4. Because with the dot patterns, you do 4 angles, and then if you do the opposite side past 90 degrees, they look the exact same as the previous 4. It's just, whereas lines, it's not, that's not the case. Really worried that I am not recording right now. I think I should probably check. I'll do that after. Another spot where I've got really thick emulsion right here. I might have overwashed that one. I might have overwashed that one. Goes back, washes it again. Man, I ain't the smartest, but I am the most handsome. And that's all that really matters. That looks good to me. See, having thicker emulsion in spots isn't that big of an issue. I was talking about inconsistency in emulsion yesterday, and it's like, at the end of the day, I had my buddy coat, I think he coated all of the screens in the last batch. I like cleaned them up or whatever after. Yeah, I don't know about that. I might shoot that again. We'll see. But, oh, see this blowout? That's okay. It looks cool if anything. But, it's not a huge deal if your emulsion is inconsistent. It just really really comes into play when you're washing stuff out. And if you have really fine detail and super thin emulsion in one spot, and you've washed that spot out completely, but you have thick emulsion in another spot, and that hasn't washed out yet, well, there's a chance in the process of you washing out, look at this nice view. Wait, let's see if we're recording. Yeah. There's a chance, yeah, look at that. Olympic Stadium out there. I hope the camera's not too low. Again, it seems like it's too low. There's a chance that you'll, in washing out the thicker emulsion, the thin emulsion part where stuff is already washed out, you're going to overwash it. So that's the main issue with inconsistency in, don't tell about the coffee again. Inconsistency in emulsion. I got all my colors here. Order of operations, very important. I just started doing both of these things, the labels and this, because I don't think I was getting confused, but this definitely makes things a bit easier. Okay, we're gonna expose this guy. So, this is kind of a bad habit of just sticking stuff on the wall. I shouldn't do this when other people are around, but sometimes I do. Usually I remember to come grab them right after, but there's actually one occasion where I left for vacation and I had left a bunch on the wall like a jackass. So this screen is bigger than the other ones, as I'm sure you can tell with your beady little eyeballs. This screen, look how thick that emulsion is there. That's going to be probably not an issue, but just slightly annoying. But I did this screen on, because this would go edge to edge on the other one, which I've done with others in the past, and it's been relatively fine. But I actually want to get more screens this size in a lower mesh, because 180 is pretty high. This, if you're not familiar, sometimes you'll see numbers on the screens that correlates to the mesh. So that's I guess the same as lines per inch or dots per inch. So 180 isn't super high. You get them all the way up to 300, but that's more for paper or really thin inks. With fabric inks, because they do have more body, because fabric, I think I said in another video, fabric is so absorbent you need to push more ink into it. Usually for fabric screens, it'll be between, I mean, as low as 80, but usually 100, 156. They're all kind of like weird numbers. This is the first time I've exposed in these videos. This is the vacuum table. These are all the lights, and you can see they're the same lights as, you know, they're like just tube lighting. But the difference is these are, you see it says there, can you read? Daylight Deluxe. So that's just like the, I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but that's just like the phone's ringing. That's just like the lights you would get in a tanning bed. I built a light table on my own once, and I tried to order these UV lights, because that's what it is. They give off UV rays. That's what cures the emulsion. And I ended up ordering black lights. So it turns out, I'm pretty sure black lights are the same as these lights, but with that purple casing on them. So all my latches are down. The next thing I do is I hit the vacuum. The vacuum comes in there. And the reason you saw there's a string there that you put through, the string just makes it so if you didn't put the string, sometimes the vacuum can seal this and you don't get a full seal on the inside. The string allows this like kind of channel for that to happen. Set this on 12 minutes and go. And there you go. That'll automatically turn itself off in 12 minutes. Kind of cool, the vacuum bed. I'm not really a kinky dude, but I did have a fascination with vacuum beds for a while. Look it up if you haven't seen it. People using latex vacuum beds. Some people will make it where it's like a PVC piping frame, super DIY, PVC piping frame, a giant latex pocket they've sewn with a zipper, and then like a vacuum thing just like that, or like some sort of socket. And sometimes I would see them use like a house vacuum. And again, I never beat off to this or anything like that, hand to God, but I just thought it was like so, I thought it was cool and funny. And one of my ex-girlfriends, that's actually pretty much the first thing we talked about on our first date, and still to this day I don't know how that came out, but that was a pretty good first date, I'm not gonna lie. Shout out Sophia, pretty cool person. I've got to pin these down. I guess maybe I should iron them. I ironed the last batch just so they were extra flat, but it's not gonna make too much of a difference. Whatever, I'll do it anyway. But I don't know. Sometimes if you turn the iron and we'll see, the iron and that on at the same time, it blows trips the circuit. Now we good. I think it's just like the wiring's weird, the table, and then you can't use this at the same time. I don't know, doesn't matter. This should be pretty cool today though. I am pumped. Probably should have eaten a bit more, but I've got these little coconut ball things over here. I used to eat these, not these specific ones, but stuff by the same company. I used to eat them at this old job I had. I shouldn't talk with my mouth full, but the job was actually a job I talked about before. It was where that guy taught me the trick of you fold tape and then just pull to rip it, but you gotta like put it on a really hard fold. And I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about it because I should have tried this trick for coating screens. He would have you coat screen with one hand. So you'd hold your screen. I should get a screen to show you. So you'd hold your screen like this against your foot. This trough is too big, and then you would tilt and pull with one hand. And then like blast, because we used to print at this job, we would print umbrellas. Holy shit, man. I printed so many goddamn umbrellas. I remember the last job I did there, it was a job for Canada Dry, and how it would work. One thing I will say about this guy, his name was Michel. Actually, I'll say a few things. Michel was cool as shit. He was a great guy. He used to call me, this was at a time when I had moved to Montreal, which it's been about 7 years now. But this was at a time where my French really was relatively non-existent. I was going to night school and learning French, but you know, I could understand a bit. I could speak like, I don't know, really not that much. Michel was a Quebecois guy, and you know, so he had to communicate with me in English a lot of the time. He was cool as hell. He used to call me Gaston Le Gaffe, which I kind of eventually, you know, I didn't take offense to. I thought it was kind of funny. But if you look it up, Gaston Le Gaffe, I don't want to say he's like Mr. Magoo, but it sure as shit ain't a compliment. Gaston Le Gaffe, Le Gaffe is like, I'm pretty sure like the clumsy guy or the idiot. Which I wasn't, man. I was pretty good. I mean, I maybe was a little bit absent-minded, but I got the job done. I forget why he called me that. He never was a mean guy ever though. It was all kind of in jest. The other thing I remember about him was he had a tattoo of his own name, which I always think is like a pretty fucking cool move to get your own name tattooed on you. He had a tattoo of his own name on his bicep, I'm pretty sure, like here. And it was written, it looked like a stick and poke, but before, he must have been in his 40s. It looked like a stick and poke, but before stick and pokes were really a thing or something like that, or just it was done by a terrible tattoo artist. But it also, excuse me, it also looked like it was done in a grade schooler's or like a teenager's handwriting, and had those like, you know, if you're trying to do like cool funky handwriting in high school or something like that, and doing like weird curls and flourishes, it had stuff like that. It was sick. That was one of my favorite tattoos I've ever seen in my life. He was a pretty cool guy. He was one of actually the better, that was one of the better shops I worked in. He was obsessed with workflow and tidiness. I think that's why I like the shop so much, because it was tidy. A lot of the times you can go to a screen printing shop, or at least some of the ones I've been to, some bigger operations, some smaller, that are just like a fucking total disaster. Like it's hell. There's just shit everywhere. And clutter, you know, I think you saw the studio, and you can see this studio. There's a lot of stuff in here, but everything's relatively organized. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like shit taking over. So I don't have a problem with like stuff. It's more just like, does the stuff have a place? And Michel, he was all about that. He was crazy about that. And he taught me the tape thing, which I thought was genius and did save a lot of time. You know, especially in that situation where you're like busting job after job, and you know, cutting tape off with your teeth, first of all, is bad. And then cutting tape off with your knife, well, you got to pull out your knife, you got to pop out your knife, you got to cut, you got to put it away. You got a knife near the screen, which is always kind of a less than ideal situation. But he was sick. In his coconut in my mouth. In his pastime, he would build and play airplane simulator or flight simulator. So he had a whole like if you would go to his desk on break, he'd be like looking at other people's flight simulators. Like people will build like a full kind of mock cockpit. So he was really into that. And he also said he played a lot of video games. And on a couple different occasions, he was like, kind of warned me against playing video games. He was like, I like wasted my life. And I wasn't a big video game player at the time. I think maybe I was playing a bit of TF2, and then it amped up after because I think I got a bit depressed, which is when, in my adult life anyway, the only time I've really played video games is when I've been, mostly when I've been depressed. And I've played them like, whoo, like a job sometimes, man. I'm telling you. Like, wake up, go straight to it, play for 8 hours, 12 hours, which you feel like shit about, and you're like, man, no one else is doing this. But in reality, there's a lot of people that are caught in that cycle. And maybe some people that enjoy it, but for me, it wasn't really a thing of pleasure. I wasn't like, yeah, yeehaw, I'm playing a video. It wasn't like, oh man, I worked all week, I'm gonna take the whole weekend and play video games. It was like, yo, I don't want to think. I don't want to think, full stop. So what better way to do that than to be like a soldier, a digital, like a cartoon digital soldier all day, or like a spy or whatever at the time, playing TF2. And after TF2 was Overwatch, I can't play any, I used to play Counter-Strike when I was a kid, and Diablo 2 and a bunch of other stuff. But I can't play any of the, first of all, story-based or narrative-based games I can't really get into anymore. I don't really have the attention span for it. I can't, like, I mean, I remember when I was real young playing Ocarina of Time and stuff like that, and just kind of escaping into these worlds, and a bunch of other games. But shit. Whoa. It's a lot of noise all at once. But I can't really play games like that anymore. I don't know if it's like a lack of imagination or patience or what. But I also can't play any realistic sort of gun games. I don't know why, I just don't like them. I tried playing Counter-Strike, not to say Counter-Strike is particularly realistic, but in comparison to something, say, like TF2, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess it's realistic. But I tried playing a couple years ago with my one buddy, my best buddy, Jamie Duncan. Shout out Jamie Duncan. See, this still has tape on it from last time. That's probably never gonna come off. And I hated it. It sucked. People are so mean on that game, and like being told off by people on the internet, I think is good for you. I don't know if I talked about this in the other video. It's like, it's good for people to talk shit on you. To get constant praise is bad. You should definitely every once in a while have someone tell you that you suck. Even if it's not necessarily true, but just to keep a thick skin and stay 10 toes down, yeah, you should be told that you're a piece of shit and that what you do is trash once in a while. But there's a difference between someone doing that on a video game that you care nothing about to something that you do care something about. Like if someone says my comics suck or whatever, I think that's good for me. But in a situation of Counter-Strike, having a bunch of, you know, teenagers be like calling me calling me a bunch of slurs and saying like get pwned. They probably didn't even say that. That's probably that's probably out of date. But that shit sucked. I hated playing that. I I also just don't like the idea of like modern warfare games that like fetishizes. I just like my violence cartoony. Or at least like sci-fi or something. When it's too close to real world violence, I find it a bit off-putting. And I can't get into it. I stained this screen really bad years ago. And see, stains like this you can get rid of with, that's not too bad. With haze remover. But haze remover is a heavy, heavy chemical. And yeah, it might get rid of the ghost in your screen, but it also kind of disintegrates. Again, this is according to someone I just asked. Maybe he told me 6 months ago. But it kind of disintegrates your screen. So unless you're really ready to say, hey man, this screen's on its last legs, let's try to get some more juice out of it. I can't see my image, I'm gonna dehaze it. And I'm willing to accept the fact that the holes are probably gonna pop up a lot quicker, the screen's just gonna fall apart. Then maybe don't dehaze. Unless you're ready to accept that. Oh, I blew a bunch of that out. All up there. Whatever, maybe I'll touch some of it up, maybe I won't. You can't really tell too much. And I think, yeah, I think it'll be in a cool spot anyway, regardless. Keep rolling, baby. Yeah, that gorilla. That's what's been haunting my mind. Michelle. I feel bad. I didn't really just stop showing up to that job, but I quit that job in a way that wasn't really fair to him. But I kind of was losing my mind at the time. Especially that Canada Dry job. Holy crap. That, like I said, that was the last job. That's another thing I realized I have to stop saying so much, like I said. But that Canada Dry job, that was the last job that I did there, and it was, I think it was 10,000 umbrellas. And I did maybe 4 days of it, just over half the order. 4 days until I kind of, not lost it, but I would just kind of got a bit depressed or something. They're finishing up this condo across the street. Should be pretty cool when it's done. Little man in blue down there smoking beside a little tricycle. That's pretty cute. Oh, yeah. All right, well, let's get into action. Maybe we'll get some more coffee. I'm gonna turn this off for a second. I'm gonna get some more coffee and other shit. Here, I'll show you the advantage of being a small man. I can fit this roll of tape around my wrist, so I can carry multiple things. I don't have to worry about carrying the tape in my hand. I just slip it around my wrist. I got some more coffee. And a bunch of water. I should probably drink water. Coffee. let's get rocking. I also grabbed this essential tool, forced air blower, so I can blast out some of these screens. Maybe I'll leave it on this corner here. See, this is me channeling Michel. Order of operation. Actually, he probably wouldn't approve of how messy that table is. Turn off some of these things I'm not using. I guess I'll be back in there. He would not approve, Mr. Michel. Oh yeah, I was gonna see if I can find a picture of Gaston Lagaffe. Actually, just look up a picture of Gaston Lagaffe. I don't need to show you. I don't even know if my phone would show up well. But look up Gaston Lagaffe. Gaston space LA space Gaff, I think, is Gaffe. Maybe E accent aigu, which is one of the accents, but you'll figure it out. You smart. Okie dokie. Now, decisions. Do I patch this? Maybe I will. I haven't patched anything on camera yet. Maybe that's a good idea. This is another light table. Oh, and this is a sweater I did for Sad World. Almost, I guess, just over 2 years ago. Shout out Sad World. He's a good guy. I'm getting nervous because I think someone's going to come in soon. I don't want to get I feel like I'm doing something naughty, making these videos, standing around talking to myself like a little freako. But I'm a good guy, I swear. Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. Do I got brushes? These aren't very fine brushes though. That's an issue. I use my spit for stuff sometimes when I probably shouldn't. Just sticking that brush in my mouth. Oh, motherfuck, I don't have... I'll be right back. I gotta get something. There we go. There we go. I went and got a... Man, I think the camera angle's okay. I went and got a smaller brush and some screen filler. This light table's great. I don't know who built this. I think they did here at the shop, or maybe they did downstairs. There's a wood shop called Clark. But look, it's got these little access panels so you can service things, I'm pretty sure. All these cool little cubbies below. It's on wheels so you can move it. It's got a flat file. That's crazy. And it's got a dimmer, so I don't have to burn my retinas out. But maybe I will, just so I can see what's going on. I don't use screen filler a lot, but I should. Today I actually might use it to patch the sides of the other screens so that I don't have to use tape, because I'm actually out of... See how little I use this? It's all dry. Because I'm out of packing tape. And I was going to use masking tape, just green masking tape, which I never usually do, but I've seen other people do. But for some reason I'm slightly afraid. I don't know why. I have some sort of impression that it will, you know, I'll end up with a bunch of glue and shit on my screen left over, but I'm not sure. Oh man, I'm so forgetful sometimes. It's tough. I feel like I should have put together a checklist. Also, I just didn't know I would need screen filler. I'm not going to do an amazing job of this, but I am going to lighten up some of the areas where it's really blown out. Like here. But that's going to be kind of difficult. Because see, I've got this weird that's one of the textures that I got in the True Grit texture supply. That's another thing I noticed. I used the wrong words for stuff a lot. I was calling a trough a squeegee. Sometimes I get halfway through saying something and just stop. I just said True Grit texture. They're called True Grit texture supply. But anyways, the wavy texture is from a True Grit texture supply pack. I bought a few from them. My friend was going to send me some, but I didn't hear back from him, which is not a big deal. I didn't hear back from him right away, and so I went and downloaded some. But he hit me back just today, so maybe I'll see if he has any that I don't have, because honestly, they're pretty cool. And I can see that it's just like with Kyle Brush, where it's like, with Kyle Brush, I bought a bunch of sets, and I had, you know, at the end of the day, you end up with like thousands of brushes. It's like you end up using maybe 10, but you know, within that 1,000 are those 10 that you will end up using. So it's better to have more than less in those situations. You just kind of, I mean, maybe not all the time. Maybe it can be overwhelming if you got all this shit in front of you, but if you're willing to sit there and wade through the shit and find out what works for you, it's better to have more options than less, I guess. I guess so. I have very little interest in doing this for much longer. This is not how I want to spend my time right now. Slave to convenience. Not even convenience. I maybe just lazy. Maybe I'm a lazy little butt. I'm a lazy little butt. And I want to keep a little bit of the blowout because I do like how it looks a lot of the time. What to do, what to do. Should I mask out the open areas with screen filler? Probably not. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe on some of the other screens. Let's see what's going on with these other screens. Let's maybe do it for these. I guess I could get a bigger brush. That might be smarter for this. Oh no, this is boring. This isn't gonna work for me. No. Well, maybe I'll see the blowout in the other one and dry this in the meantime. I need action, baby. Man, that blowout is pretty severe. Maybe I'll do a little bit more here. Thick skin, you gotta have thick skin. I'm grateful that people have shit on me at various points in my life. I've gotten a lot of praise at various points, but I've also been shit on a decent amount, which I think has been good. Makes me a little bit tougher, makes me a bit more, I don't want to say immune to criticism, but just I can process it a bit better than I've seen some other people process it. I was talking to this younger guy. I came by his studio yesterday. He picked up a couple shirts. I don't know, probably early 20s for sure. But talking to him about people starting projects, specifically clothing stuff. There's so many people that do clothing stuff now or want to do clothing stuff. But regardless, doesn't matter. Clothing, anything else. There's a lot of people that want to do creative stuff nowadays, and I understand why. We live in an age of the individual, I guess. But how people will get so excited to do something, they'll show their friends are like, oh, this is sick, this is sick. They pump themselves up, oh, it's gonna drop, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then it does, and it's a dud. I'll be right back. I keep taking breaks. A lot of breaks in this one. Someone else came in, that's why I stopped. I'm all nervous now. But what I was talking about is people just receiving just praise, you know? Kids hype themselves up and do a thing one time and don't get the reaction that they wanted, and then just kind of give up on the whole thing. And that's not really how that works. You kind of have to live in the present and take each project one at a time, and also have long-term thinking, like what will the project become if I stick to this for X amount of years, months, weeks, whatever, or just X amount of iterations of the project. But it's tough to do. But that's the thing. People consult their friends. They say, "Oh, what do you think of this? How does this look?" And for the most part, it's not someone being a bad friend. It's just more or less like, do you really want to get into if a friend shows you something you don't actually think it's that cool, do you really want to get into it with them over your, like, sometimes you just want to kind of move the conversation along. Sometimes you have a friend who will give you honest feedback and criticism, but that's pretty rare. But when you do find someone like that, you should definitely make an effort to show them things as often as you can and listen to their advice, or at least be open to their advice. Because that's important. You know, so people, they hype themselves up. They only hear positive feedback. They put something out. There's an underwhelming reaction. They're like, fuck it. It's good to have people shit on you. That's why I post stuff on Reddit every once in a while, because people on Reddit, they don't give a fuck. There's no affiliation. It's not someone that follows me. It's not friends that I know. It's just random people on the internet that also have the luxury of being behind a relatively, for the most part, relatively anonymous handle. So there's no consequences. There's no, like, they can just drop whatever they think. Sometimes people are overly critical because they're miserable bastards or whatever, but a lot of the time people are just straight up honest. I was also lucky that, like I said, I've been shit on a lot of different points in my life. And I shouldn't necessarily say shit on, but sometimes it was definitely shit on. But when I was very young, or younger than I am now, when I was a teenager, I used to do graffiti. And graffiti was good for a lot of different reasons for me. I think first and foremost because it kind of created I had like a little bit of sense of community. I had like a gang of dudes that I would hang out with and make art with, which is always, it's tough to do stuff on your own. Like I said before, I had the studio, again with the like I said, god damn, broken record. But like I said, it's tough to do stuff on your own. I used to have a studio just in my bedroom. I'd wake up, I'd roll out of bed, and I would sit at my desk all day and no one was around, and it was kind of lonely and a little bit boring. And becoming a member here and getting my studio next door and being around other artists has been really helpful in the way that, you know, just community. We don't have to be working on the same thing necessarily, but it's people that are working in the same area and kind of have similar issues to you, and you can talk about each other's work, and it can be very, yeah, it can be very conducive to progress. But see, I'm a bit hesitant to talk. Ooh, having someone else in the room. I gotta get used to this though, because people are gonna be around soon, so I gotta get better at doing this when people are around. Eventually, in a few days, I want to, maybe not in a few days, but eventually I want to do a dyeing session of shirts with my one friend and have him on camera and kind of talk to him while we dye together. But I was lucky enough to have this, to be in graffiti, to have this community of other creative, if not also simultaneously destructive people in my life when I was a teenager. The point I was trying to get at with that, with the graffiti stuff, is I had people absolutely shit on me early on, which was essential in developing a thicker skin and being able to handle criticism, handle rejection, handle or deal with unmet expectations and all sorts of stuff. I still get bummed if I do something and I think it's great and it doesn't turn out exactly how I thought or doesn't get the response I thought, but that stuff made me tough. Because you'd spend all day working on something only to have someone come by the next day when you were away. You can't just hang out under bridges guarding your little graffiti piece all the time. Somebody to come by and draw a big line through this thing that you spent hours on and you thought was really cool. Draw a big line through it and write, kind of like the CS guys, write some sort of slur to put you down, along with like the word toy, which is one of my favorite disses of all time. The graffiti diss, toy. You're a whack toy. That's pretty cool. Not only someone, you know, it sucks, okay, someone's lining me out, but usually it would also be someone that you looked up to. Like it'd be older guys. I'd be like 16. And there would be someone maybe in their mid-20s who I thought was the shit and who was much more talented than me at the time, or experienced anyways. Having someone you looked up to vandalize your vandalism was, it hurt at the time, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it was good. And a lot of those guys, one guy specifically, you know, that's what I mean about the long term, man. It's what do they say? It's a marathon, not a sprint. The one guy who I thought was so cool, and still to this day I think like the work he made was pretty cool, and whatever. I saw him years down the line when I was in my early 20s. And the guy was a fucking mess, man. Wasn't really doing much. We were at the bars and walking home, and he was like rolling on the ground at certain points. I remember just being like, this guy's a bit pathetic. And that same night, he also apologized for being so hard on me and said it was because he thought I was kind of good or whatever, which I like to believe, but I don't know if it was necessarily the case. Maybe I'll just do the screen prep for this and call it a wrap. You won't get to see the printing on this one. But anyways, I think that was good for my development as an artist, being told I was crap early on. There was some times where it was a little more just like fuck you, rather than like when another graffiti artist did it, it was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like even if this person is lining me out or saying I suck, it's like an acknowledgement of my existence. So at the very least, I'm on their radar. But I remember, and I used to paint kind of goofy stuff to give these people a bit of credit, you know? Like I'd paint pictures like black and white renders of like a big fish or weird portraits. I used to be really inspired by a Montreal artist actually who goes by the tag Omen. Look him up. He's pretty good. He does a lot of black and white portraits, very large, kind of surreal stuff, I want to say. But I used to do stuff in a similar vein. Some people would say I bit his style, but that's probably not true. And I don't know if anyone would actually say that. I just wanted to use some more graffiti vocabulary. But I do stuff in that sort of style. So anyways, this one time I had painted this big fish underneath this bridge. And the very next day I went back and someone didn't line it out. Someone had actually gone and gotten house paint and come and just rolled over the whole thing. And later on MSN Messenger, I made a lot of references today that could probably help you figure out how old I am, which is fine. I'm not hiding it. But on MSN Messenger, a guy told me later, oh, so-and-so did this. And I later realized they had kind of done it together, but the one guy put it on the other guy. I think he was the puppet master in that situation. I think he just wanted to see us fight or something like that. And we did end up fighting. We went to the bridge was like near these train tracks. So we went to the train tracks in the winter. I remember what I was wearing and everything. I can remember it really clearly. That's what I mean about memory. Some stuff you need some sort of trigger or activator to activate dormant memories, but this is one of the memories, and a lot of other memories I have are sort of similar, where it's like high emotional intensity or something like that. And yeah, I remember what I was wearing. I was wearing a red flannel. It was winter, not like super cold winter, but winter all the same. I think early winter. And I met these two guys, and I fought the one guy. The one guy's way bigger than me now. If we were to fight again, we fought a few different times. We fought, I think, three separate occasions. 2 for real, but technically 3. But this time when we fought, you know, I've always had the same move when fighting, which is just to try to sweep someone's legs and then get on top of them and pin their shoulders. Because like I said, I'm short. And I guess at that time we were all kind of short because we're only about 13. He got way bigger later. But I actually won that fight, I guess. I pinned him down and then punched him in the face a few times and then made him say, this is fucked up. Made him say, I'm a toy. I'm a whack toy. Because that to me at the time was the worst possible thing you could be, was a toy. It means a lot in the graffiti world, or it hurts a lot, or it's a huge insult to be a toy. Yeah, I think I might just prep these screens and call it a wrap for the video. Otherwise it's going to be like 4 hours long. Graffiti, man. Lots of good memories. Used to hang out at this place called the Thoth. Maybe it'll show up on the internet if you look it up. Thoth. Thoth. It was this long kind of tunnel under a highway in St. Catharines. I don't remember what highway because I didn't start driving. I only got my license like a year ago, so I never really paid attention to roads or any sort of geography before then. It was just probably kind of stupid and ill-advised, but it was this tunnel underneath this highway right beside this creek called the 12 Mile Creek in St. Catharines, where I grew up. And it was all just graffiti. It was kind of like a safe zone that you could go to and paint and hang out, like smoke dope, drink 40s, and the cops really wouldn't bother you. But I have a lot of good memories down there, you know? I remember seeing, the first time I saw one of my things lined down there. I don't know if it was the first time I painted down there, but that was by the guy that was later kind of looking a bit pathetic. And from what I remember, he lined it. It was like down there for a day. And that was a pretty good one that I did. It was some sort of portrait. But I don't think they really like that. It's like a lot of graffiti writers don't, at that time especially, didn't like any sort of thing that wasn't letter pieces. They didn't really fuck with like street art or whatever you want to call it. Though I didn't really feel like I was doing street art, but like I always thought street art was more wheat pastes and like dumb Banksy type shit, but not to say all street art's dumb, but Banksy is kind of dumb. Yeah, I remember, I don't know when I met that guy. I remember I met another guy for the first time, a guy who I really liked and looked up to. His name, I won't give you his name, but I'll give you his graffiti name. His name was Guts. G-U-T-S, or maybe Z. No, I think it was just S. RC Crew was the guys I looked up to when I was a kid, which was Work. That was the one dude that was on the floor that one time that lined me. There was Guts, there was Safe, there was a few others, I forget, but I remember when I first met Guts, he was down there painting on his own, and I immediately recognized who he was just based on the style he was painting. And I was like, oh, hey, you're so-and-so. And he's like, nope. I'm like, okay. Who are you then? I was a gullible kid. Like, I just sort of thought everyone, and I'm still gullible to this day, I thought everyone just kind of shared information and got along and whatever, but graffiti dudes are so secretive. They don't want anyone to know. That's why some of them are so fucked up, I think, because they only get appreciation from such a small subset of the population. They only get respect within their own community, and they're kind of demonized by everyone else. Sometimes rightfully so, because they are vandals at the end of the day, but they don't It's hard to monetize a lot of the time. You do a lot of unpaid, thankless work, and you don't get much recognition. So they kind of end up being crazy dudes, I think. Feel frustrated, feel like the world... I mean, the act of graffiti itself is sort of like, notice me! Notice me! Screaming into the void. Screaming into the abyss. Ah, man. I could ramble for hours, but I think I'm gonna call it for this one. I think that's it for now. I'm gonna leave a little bit to mystery. Maybe I'll come back and print later and videotape a little bit of that, but maybe it's nice to see different parts of the process, and maybe it's nice if I don't do 2-hour-long videos. So, anyways, I hope that you're having a very nice day. It's gray outside, but that's okay. Bye-bye.